Hi, I'm Jeff Sturgis from Whitetail Habitat Solutions, and you know, a very important thing that you have to keep in mind when you're setting a trail camera is how much you're actually hiding your trail camera. And yes, you need to hide them. Started writing articles about that 15 years ago. Look up how to hide a trail camera. We used to hide them in a stump and hollow out a hole in the stump because we found that deer don't like anything square, straight, perfectly round. And so whether it's a camera body, even a large blind, especially those older bucks and doe, they don't like them. And so a few things, you know, I've talked about this in another video, but we want these about 6 feet high or more. Sometimes we'll even put them down here, because not only do we find deer aren't looking up down there for cameras, they're not looking down here. So that works well too. I'd rather do that than have it right here, right in front. I'd rather have it than on a post right here watching the mock scrape that we have. So I want that out of a deer's vision. I want that tree to be about as wide as the camera, and that's why we don't put them on those skinny posts unless it's way off to the side. You know, maybe I put them on a post or something, but I'd put it on against that brush over there. I'd hollow out that bush and I'd push that camera right up against it. Make sure no brush is blowing in from the wind, but now that camera's covered up. You have a little cover on the sides angling out. Kind of look at it if it's pushed back like in a V of cover. We could do that anywhere around here too. You don't want those deer to see it, so getting it out of head level and then also making sure it's hidden from the sides. We have good brush around this location. There's a wall of brush back here, so I don't expect the deer to ever look up at this. We're gonna call it the sniff test. Do your cameras pass the sniff test? You know, we talk about how to do this right, where to put it at. We have the mock scrape over here. One reason we have the mock scrape, this is where all the deer go, this is where the travel is. They have an exit pattern. This was an old scrape to begin with. When they come in and focus on this, not only are they not focusing on the camera, they're not focusing on a stand location that we'll have right up there to hunt. So where they don't see us in the tree, great for young hunters. Imagine, buck comes in, they're not focusing on you, the camera, anything but the mock scrape. We've had them come in 20 feet away looking right at the mock scrape and a new one where we haven't even had a buck hit. They'll come in, look right at it. They're not focusing on the camera or you in the stand. You can tell if deer don't like your camera if they ever go up and sniff your camera. There's no reason for a deer to ever come up and look at this camera. They can't see the blackout flash. The camera blends in well. It's 6 feet high. They can't see it from the side very well. It's not right in their walk and path. They have the mock scrape to focus on, which is we have a mock scrape at every one of our stand locations. The bottom line is, if you have deer coming up and sniffing your camera 1 time out of 100 pictures, 2 times, 3 times, it's too many. That means when that mature buck comes in or that older doe, they're gonna pick it out, and you can drastically alter where those deer even travel around your area if your cameras don't pass the sniff test. So when you see that happening, like if I had this on a stake right here, just a rod, and we're watching it, we use those against grass, against brush, but if I had that and they kept walking over to it, I need to get rid of it because it's gonna hurt that stand location, but it's gonna hurt the entire area too. So you wanna make sure your cameras pass the sniff test. If you're seeing the deer walk up to it 1 out of 100 times, even 5 out of 100 times certainly, then it's too many. And you wanna have your cameras, most of our cameras that are in the woods right now, not only pass the sniff test, but they never get sniffed. Doesn't matter if it's 500 pictures, 1,000 or 2,000. And when you look at 20, 30, 40 cameras at a time, and they're all passing the sniff test, it really tells you about cameras when other folks out there are showing you over and over. And we go to clients, we work with 300 clients a year as a group, and when they're showing bucks, deer in general, walking up and sniffing that camera, it tells you those deer know the camera's there, and that's not only gonna make it so you only get 1 picture of that mature buck that comes in. Have you ever seen that? They start backing up and they leave the area, you never get a picture again. But if it's at a stand location, if it's in an area where there's great movement, which is why you stuck the camera there in the first place, if it's in a beautiful mock scrape like this, you'd spent the time to set up, it's gonna ruin the area. So make sure your cameras pass the sniff test, the deer aren't coming up to them, and again, 1 out of 100 times is not good enough for me. 5 out of 100 is really bad. But you should be able to go through an entire season if it's in a good spot, which is the majority of the time, and not have deer come up and smell your cameras. Make sure you consider that when you're setting them up. Make sure you hide your camera. Whether it was 15 years ago when we first figured that out and started writing articles about it. I remember my first cameras I set up back in 98, 99. They were flash cameras, and I put them on a great trail in the UP of Michigan. All of a sudden there's another trail 30 yards away and I'm not getting any pictures. It's that important. It'll clear the area. Make sure your cameras pass the sniff test this season, and you'll see not only more deer and get more pictures on your trail cameras, but more deer in front of your stand, which is ultimately, whether you're building a herd, trying to get great pictures, what hunting's all about.